Hi, I'm Ben,
And I'm Zach.
and welcome to the Movie Vault. Today, we have a special episode where we are reviewing the 1995 film directed by Michael Bay, Bad Boys.
We watched it. What you gonna do?
What you gonna do? Are you gonna come for us? I don't know. But this movie grossed $141 million to a $23 million budget, which is pretty impressive. All right, so we have a little bit of news to get to today, right, Zach?
Yeah, we got some announcements first.
So, first off, we want to remind everyone about our new format.
Yes, we will no longer be doing the long 20-minute plot reviews that really tire us, and we don't like taking too many notes during a movie because it really makes us tired. So instead, we are going to do 5-minute plots.
Or less.
Yes, because we really just stopped caring about our viewers.
Yeah,
And
and we
listeners.
also figured that if you've watched the movie, you don't really need a 20-minute summary.
That too, but that's secondary to
Secondary.
us less caring.
Yes. Also, we have on our episode of Outside the Vault this week, we have our first guest.
Yes,
Ever.
you will find out on Wednesday.
Yep. And we would like to shout out a very special company. Family.
I don't know. Ben and I both work at a farm.
A farm.
It's
Yeah.
not a festival this year. It is it's a farm activity area, and it's called Freeman's Farm. And we not only work there, but we work there often.
Yeah. It is open for the next 4 weeks. Next 4 weeks.
I think it's 5. I think it's 5 or 6.
Although by the
honestly.
time this comes out, it'll be the next 3 weeks or so.
No, I think it's 5 weeks by the time this comes out.
Okay.
I think it's 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's 6 weeks. All right. And so you can go look them up online if you're in the Ohio area, specifically Central Ohio.
Yes, but we were gonna very specifically shout out their kettle corn. They make very good
Yes.
kettle corn, and by they I mean me. I
Yeah.
am a very good kettle corn maker. I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. We have
Afton is second place in kettle corn, but shout out to Afton.
I'm joking. We have a very good kettle corn team that makes a solid. Actually, I'm not even gonna say solid. The best kettle corn out of any kettle corn in the entire tri-state area.
Yes. In the tri-state area.
It's the kettle corninator.
If you get that reference, you are a higher tier listener on my list
Intellectual.
intellectually. Okay, so now that we've covered all our bases, let's get to the plot of this movie.
Okay, so we start out with a funny scene where two characters, which are our primary two characters in this entire movie.
Marcus Barnett, played by Martin Lawrence, and Mike Lowry, played by Will Smith.
Yes, so Mike, not Mike and Lawrence. Mike and Marcus, that's a tongue twister. Mike Marcus. No, it's not. Okay, never mind. They are in a car and they're just arguing about like French fries and just the usual things that guys argue about. And all of a sudden they're in some kind of action sequence or so.
Yeah, they get robbed,
Yep.
but they use their banter to get the criminals distracted, and then we really see who they are, and they're cops.
They are bad boy cops.
Bad boy cops.
Yep, they're very meta when they say the word bad boy.
Yes. And then we get a title sequence and straight into a robbery.
Yes. Lots and lots of heroin. Is it heroin?
Yeah, it's heroin.
Has been robbed from a police precinct that was holding these drugs because they had recently been obtained. Yes. And they are robbed and everything is taken, and the police chief, is it? Chief?
Yeah, sergeant. I think.
Sergeant or something like that. He is very mad. He's very mad at Mike and Marcus, and he tells them they have to get it back. Otherwise, their whole precinct will probably be shut down.
So Mike and Marcus take it upon themselves to go find some people who can maybe get them in contact with the possible robbers. One of them is Mike's call girl friend, Max. Max is a girl, just to clarify that, even though her name is Max.
Mm-hmm.
And so Max decides to go to this party with her friend, Julie. And Julie's she's not a call girl, she's just going with her, which is kind of weird. But they meet this guy named, what's his name, Eddie? Yes, Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
And he has stolen a little bit of the heroin for himself. And he
You
wants
almost
to,
said cocaine.
wants to have a little, I almost said cocaine, because it did kind of look like cocaine.
Yeah.
and he wanted to have a little bit of a private party for himself. Unfortunately, his boss Fouché,
Wait, how do you know what cocaine looks like?
I mean, I've never actually seen it in real life, but I've seen pictures.
Okay, just making sure. Just making sure that you're above reproach.
Right, gotta be above reproach.
Yep.
And so Fouché is not real happy about this. So he first shoots Max because she's a witness. So I guess that's his reasoning.
So Max dies. She wanted to be a cover girl, and they ended up covering her with a tarp, so she became a cover girl.
Yikes.
Yep. Meta.
And meta and dark humor for the win.
Although I definitely derived that joke by myself.
Yeah.
That is not at all what the director Michael Bay intended.
No, it probably is not actually.
Michael Bay is more for those blood and explosions rather than those symbolic
Right.
things.
Well, anyway, Eddie dies too. And then Julie runs away in the most unrealistic chase scene of all time, where she jumps into a pool from like 9 stories up.
And survives with no broken bones, no blood, nothing.
And then
It's a miracle.
Marcus is put on the case. Julie calls the police, and she wants to speak to Mike because Mike was friends with Max.
Which is a very weird circumstance because Mike gets, obviously, he was friends with Max when Max died, and he gets kind of motivated to go search for some new leads on this case for who killed Max. So he leaves that night. So when, what's her face? Julie calls the police precinct. She calls in asking for Mike. Otherwise, she's going to hang up. So the police chief tells Marcus to pretend that to be Mike. And then
Yes.
as this happens, this starts like a place where Julie has to think that Marcus is Mike. And then when Mike comes in the picture, that he has to think Mike is Marcus. Or she does. She has to think that Mike is Marcus. So they kind of like switch lives to keep the story realistic almost.
Yes, and so the lives are switched, and this leads to many negative circumstances, including Marcus's wife being very suspicious of him. At one point, Marcus actually thinks that Mike is
Gets with his wife.
Gets with his wife, and that leads to an argument.
Which he doesn't.
Mike and Marcus go to Club Hell at one point, which
is a very creative name.
Yeah, it really gets to the point across of what goes on there. And they try to get one of the thugs that had been shooting at Julie, and then Julie decides to be all Batman on him and come in the middle of the party, and the goons and Fouché, they see Julie from like it's like all the way across the club because they're at like the very top floor in the prime seating, but somehow there's like hundreds of people, it seems like, in this crowd, and they somehow spot her out in the middle of the crowd, and then Mike and Marcus have to bail her out, and then they have to escape in this truck has explosives in it, and the thing explodes. It gets on the news. It becomes a whole thing. And finally, this leads up to sort of the conclusion of the movie.
A long 20-minute action sequence.
Yes, which involves Marcus getting in trouble with his wife because she thinks that he's cheating on her, but then she realizes he's actually not when they get shot at by like 20 people in the hotel, and then they go on a chase scene, and this is where Will Smith's star is born. Do you know why?
Because his acting.
And because he is running shirtless down the streets
of
Miami.
I can vividly remember that scene.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that Mike, who's played by Will Smith, he keeps up with the cars somehow in that scene, or he tries to.
It's like Captain America.
Yeah, but like you don't even think about it. It's kind of crazy. But Julie has been kidnapped at this point by the bad guys. They get away with her. So they have to go to where the deal is being done for the heroin.
Yeah.
Which is at the airport hangar. This Colombian guy who looks like a drug dealer, a drug fellow, is buying drugs from Fouché and shipping them back to Colombia, which I've heard pointed out several times is very odd because normally drugs are being imported into America, not exported from America, because
Colombians need drugs too.
they make heroin in Colombia and
Yep,
cocaine.
but
They
they
can't
like
make it in America. They don't have the right ingredients.
yeah, but they like that American messed up heroin, the one that really gets you hurt because it's not made right.
Yes, apparently.
We're
so.
not. We're
I
not.
thought this was specifically supposed to be like really high grade heroin, though.
I don't know. We're not
Like-
condoning heroin in any way. We're just saying it's a weird process.
This is not. This was like really fine heroin. So there's like black tar heroin.
Yeah.
And that's like it looks disgusting.
Yeah.
But this was like the fine powder. So this was
In
obviously.
Breaking Bad, the methamphetamine that Walter and Jesse make is like the purest in the nation, and that's how they become very famous. It's
Yeah.
called. They make blue meth. So yeah.
Yeah. And I read a book this summer about opioid and drug addiction. That's how I know so much about
And I
heroin.
was
'Cause it covered heroin
an
a lot.
intern in the Teen Ambassador Board for the Attorney General, and they did a lot of drug stuff for presentations and stuff like that.
So that's where
So we're partially educated.
we're partially educated on the subject, which makes us question some of the things about this movie.
Yep.
And so that the movie ends with a face-off between Fouché, Marcus, Julie, and Mike, and it's a car chase scene, which Marcus is driving the car, and he's been made fun of for driving slow the whole movie, and it's they have to get
Oh, I
through
didn't
this
get that.
wall.
Nice catch there.
They have to get through this wall that's like sort of almost closed, and only one of them can make it through, and the group of three makes it through, and Fouché crashes into the wall. He's not dead quite yet. Mike goes up to arrest him, and Fouché tries to shoot him, but he fortunately gets out of the way, and then he shoots Fouché, and then the police come to clean up the scene, and we get the closing sequence. So that is the plot of Bad Boys.
And we did go over time, but there's just a lot of random stuff that happens.
Yeah, we didn't even cover all of the random stuff, but I'm sure we'll get to it.
And honestly, we could have done
somewhere.
the plot in a lot shorter amount of time, but it's just we like to include some fun stuff, you know.
Right. So now the quote of the movie.
How
Just-
about you? It's like a two-part quote. It's
As
like
a
two different people.
Mike and Marcus.
You
are
play
both
Mike.
involved.
You do Mike's quote. I'll do Marcus's.
So we have to set up the scene first. They're in a convenience store after one of the chase scenes, and the person who runs the convenience stores incorrectly thinks that they are robbing the store, even though they are armed because they're police officers, which he doesn't believe because they are undercover cops and not dressed like police officers. So he has a gun pulled on them, but Mike and Marcus pull their magic and pull guns back on him. And they pull the guns, and then Mike says, "Now back up, put the gun down, and get me a pack of tropical fruit Bubblicious."
and some Skittles.
So that was, I think, the quote of the movie. It perfectly sums up the comedic timing.
Yep.
And
The violence / comedic timing.
yeah,
It's very nice.
which is definitely a positive part of this movie. I would
It
say.
was almost a romantic, like a hitman rom-com is my favorite movie.
Yeah.
And it
If
was
the
almost one.
romance is just tension between a husband and a wife.
It was a hitman rom-com with a bromance.
Yeah, with a bromance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about our favorite scenes. Zach, what's your favorite scene from this movie?
My favorite scene was when it was after they switched lives, and Marcus is having Julie stay with him at Mike's apartment, and Mike comes in pretending to be Marcus into his own apartment, acting like he hasn't lived there for a long time, and he goes in, he's like, "Oh, Mike, I see." Or no, he says, "Oh, Marcus." What is he? No,
Mike.
Mike. Okay, yeah, because he's Mike. "Oh, Mike, I see that you have a poop stain." He doesn't say poop, but he says that there's a poop stain on the rug, and he's like staring down Marcus, real Marcus, and then he goes, "Oh, I love it how this dog just like gets up and stands on all the leather."
Yeah, that was a pretty funny scene. And in that scene, doesn't the girl, the masseuse Yvette, come over?
Yes,
And-
and Marcus has to pretend. Real Marcus has to get her out of there. Mike says, "You had to let Yvette go?"
Yeah, and this upsets him because, Marcus kind of ruined that relationship, whatever it was. And so now that we've done our favorite scenes,
Once again, as the movie vault grows and grows with more ligaments,
and more muscles,
more muscles for sure. We could be wearing a tank top here soon.
Yeah, pretty soon.
We have an advertisement that we are carrying over from our last podcast.
Yeah.
What is the company, Ben?
Well, first I'd like to say, in the end of the movie, when Fouché wrecks his car, you think that he might need to make a claim on this car.
Okay.
So who should you go to? Well, I'd like to tell you about the Movie Vault sponsor, Hedman Anglin Agency. Hedman Anglin Agency has been saving people an average of $500 on car and auto insurance. If you are interested in saving money, then call Hedman Anglin Agency today at 614-486-7300. That's 614-486-7300. If you do contact them, make sure you tell them Ben and Zach sent you.
Yeah, I could definitely use some insurance. Everybody needs car insurance. Everybody needs that.
Yes.
Especially since it's like illegal to not have it, right?
Yeah.
So like if you don't have it and you're listening to this, get it.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're going to jail.
Yeah, this is going to be very bad for you, and this is
The bad boys are coming for you.
This is a good opportunity for you to both get right with the law and not
Get
have to worry
right.
about Mike and Marcus coming for you.
And get right with the Lord.
Yes.
For some reason when you said law, like I thought you were going to say Lord.
Okay, now we are on to our outsider review. So this one is a short one. So
Who is it by?
Jonathan Rosenbaum of the Chicago Reader.
Okay, what does Jonathan have to say about
Jonathan
Bad Boys?
has to say about Bad Boys. Jonathan says people who have Beverly Hills Cop and Miami Vice encoded in their nervous systems and are looking for re-stimulation may be amused by this formulaic sass machine and police procedural.
Wow.
But I am writhing in my seat. Martin Lawrence and Will Smith play undercover Miami buddy cops who briefly exchange identities while holding a witness in a drug murder under wraps. And the banter is so heavy that the movie seems to be doing all your laughing for you. The cops never seem to know what they're doing, but then neither do the filmmakers. Though I can't imagine that casual audiences will care since there are plenty of big explosions at the end to reward them.
Thank you, Michael.
Directed by Michael Bay from a script by several hacks. He called the script writers hacks.
Okay.
With Teki Cario and Teresa Randall. Okay, this guy was pretty harsh on it for a 2 out of 4 review.
Go back.
2 out of...
Go back to his review.
Yeah.
There's one word. What does writhing mean?
It's like not being able to stand, like sitting down,
Okay.
kind of. Like,
So now I know it's a bad review. 'Cause
writhing
I thought
around.
writhing meant a good thing.
no, it's generally not good, I would say. At least
Okay.
definitely not in that context.
Although that review was made in 2010,
Yeah,
which was 15 years after the movie came out.
Yeah, that's kind of weird that they just go back and review movies.
Well, although they
Like,
probably made that website.
They probably made the article, released the article. I
Although we're reviewing it like what, 25 years after.
Yeah, this is the oldest movie that we've ever reviewed on the podcast.
25 years
on
after.
all 8 episodes of the podcast, this is the oldest one. Isn't that crazy?
Wow. Dang.
Yeah. And so our outsider review, we're going to see how much we agree or disagree with Jonathan Rosenbaum once we go through our...
Wait, what's the Rotten Tomatoes score?
Oh, yeah, we need to do that first. Rotten Tomatoes score is... So Rotten Tomatoes is a review aggregator, which means you can't blame Rotten Tomatoes for the score, okay? Rotten Tomatoes simply takes all of the critics' numbers and averages them together.
So what was the thermometer?
The thermometer says 42%.
Splat.
Audience score says 78%, though.
Ding, ding, ding.
So audience and critics disagreeing on this one, which does happen a lot, especially on these kind of movies that are more like popcorn movies that you like just watch for the explosions.
I'm not really into that. But we'll find out in our own review of our 10-point rating system.
Dun 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 dun. Newly 10-point rating system, thanks to Ike again. All right, so the first segment of our movie review scale is sentiment, because we always want to know what we feel about the movie.
Yeah, 2020 is all about what you feel like.
You gotta feel, because movies are kind of about all the other things, but feeling is important.
You gotta feel it. You gotta feel it.
So Zach, how do you feel about this movie?
I feel like it's a 5 out of 10 for me.
So Zach's lukewarm.
Mm-hmm.
Lukewarm.
Definitely lukewarm, for sure.
I would say 6, and this is the second time I've watched this in like 6 months. The first time I probably would have gave it more like a 7, but I bumped it down to a 6 after the second time.
It's just not as rewatchable as you
It's not
thought.
as rewatchable as I thought.
Okay.
I actually really liked this movie when I first watched it, but the more I've thought about it, and now that I've watched it a second time, a little bit less.
I mean, it's a famous movie. You hear about it a lot, so
Yeah, and we'll kind of discuss why it's famous.
yeah.
Second is message. Yes,
On Message, I also gave it a 5.
I gave it a 4 because like, what is the message of this
Yeah.
movie?
Yeah, I didn't know. I thought like,
There was some nice things about family, right?
yeah, there was some good things about family and like, also like friendship between Marcus and Mike,
Okay, yeah, that was a pretty good part of the
and
movie.
like doing your job even though it might be hard, but like
Or
not to the extent of like losing your family, which Marcus chooses his job. I guess you
Yeah.
got to provide for your family, but still, you know, he talks
Yeah.
about that he doesn't have a cushion as well as Mike does.
Yeah, because Mike is a trust fund kid who both his parents died and left him a trust fund. And
Which I didn't know what a trust fund baby was until today. So you learn something new every day, I guess.
You learn something new every day. That's right. And what do you give this plot?
I give the plot a 5.
I gave it a 4 because this is a messy plot.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's probably the worst plot of the 8 movies
Yeah.
that we've had so far. Maybe Once Upon a Time was a little bit better.
No, the plot was extremely messy, and there was parts that didn't really make a lot of sense. Like, for example, I was thinking of something earlier.
Wait, no, we have a
there's-
plot hole segment. Let's wait for that.
Okay, let's wait for that. Cinematography. How do you feel about Michael Bay and his cinematography?
I gave it a 7.
I also gave it a 7.
I think that the colors in this movie were cool. It was very orange, very purple at sometimes, very aquamarine or turquoise, as some scholars might say. But if I were to professionally talk about cinematography, there was a lot of very nice shots, like aerial shots, side view shots, zoom in shots. The action was very cutty, but other than that, like that's more style, I'd say. But cinematography, there was just a lot of good colorized sunset, sunrise, different lighting shots.
I think that this movie does a really good job at just generally getting pretty good shots of everything, and it holds up really well for an action movie 25 plus years later. Like several people were watching us with us, and they didn't know it was from 1995, and I think part of that is because the style it was filmed in was a little bit ahead of its time, I think. Because Michael Bay, as much as people hate on him, did kind of start this new style of film when, like, starting with this movie. And then I think he did like The Rock and Armageddon or something. I haven't watched those movies, but I know that they were kind of like two of his more popular or like critically well received movies that kind of pushed that action envelope a little bit more. How about character arcs?
I think I regret this, but I gave it a 7.
I gave character arcs a 4.
Yeah, I definitely regret it.
Yeah, because I didn't really like the character arcs that much.
I'm just thinking like I liked the characters. I think that's what I thought when I put character arcs down. I don't really see a progression of attitudes for any of the characters.
And the whole arc of them switching roles, I didn't particularly like. It kind of wore off its welcome.
Yeah, and it was like very I don't know. It was just weird.
It was just uncomfortable, kind of. And the arcs of Fouché has no arc. Like he's an intimidating villain who's probably supposed to have a flat arc, but I guess I didn't really like that as much. So I mean, and then Julie is just kind of annoying and doesn't have a great character arc either.
Yeah.
So I mean, honestly, I've heard people say that they should have kept Max alive and killed Julie, and I kind of agree with that. But it probably wouldn't have had the same impact on Will. So, or I mean, not Will. What's his character? Mike. Yeah. How about originality?
Originality, I gave it a 4.
I gave this one a 6, so we have some
What?
different takes on this.
I just said like it's a buddy cop movie, a lot of action, explosions, Michael Bay, a comedy, a little bit of heart here and there. Character arc's not as strong, so I gave it a 4.
I gave it a 6, and I think I was thinking more of like because of Michael Bay kind of creating his own genre. But now that I think about it, you're right. And it's probably because I haven't seen some of these buddy cop movies that were famous in the late 80s, like Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
But this is not like a new thing.
I will say, for the type of movie, its originality is nothing. But for the style of movie that Michael Bay does, it's a new style. I'll say
and
that.
and the background of Miami is used pretty well. Not necessarily original, but you don't see Miami used that often.
Yeah.
And
You see a lot in New York, California.
I also think the choice of having Will Smith and Martin Lawrence as leads was probably new for its time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a positive for the movie.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I agree with that. What about acting?
Yeah, we get right into this. I gave acting a 7, and it is boosted a lot by two people in particular.
I gave it a 7. Also,
Yeah.
yep, and it's because of Martin Lawrence and Will Smith.
They absolutely put this movie on their shoulders and carry it.
Because I remember watching a scene with Max, and I was thinking, like, she is not that great of an actress.
Well, here I know a little bit about this. Max's character is played by a model. So apparently it was a thing in the 90s that models, like famous models would like go get up parts in movies, but just cuz you're a model does not make you a good actor, and I think that kind of showed. Yeah, the
Yeah.
girl at the start of the first scene is also a model, I believe.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, so I think they were the only two good actors, honestly, in this movie. I didn't think Julie was that good.
Yeah, Julie, she just yeah. Her name is Tay Leone, I believe, and she's just not. She might be good, but I haven't seen her in anything else, and she wasn't particularly great in this movie. But it was kind of her character's fault because her character was written very annoyingly, and half the time you weren't even sure why she was there, other than that she was the hostage.
Yeah.
But
Alright.
Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, amazing.
Very
And this
true.
started Will Smith's career kind of as a movie star.
Yeah.
Not Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he was a television star. This started him as a movie star. Then he was in Men in Black and
He was no
Independence
longer
Day.
the Fresh Prince. He was the Fresh King.
The Fresh King of Bel-Air. Yeah, that's right.
The Fresh King of Miami.
Yes.
All right.
So that
Style.
style. I gave it a 6.
Same.
Yeah, it's good style. Miami's good. Some of the cutting, like I didn't really think about that until you brought it up.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think when it came to style, it's kind of like what I was talking about with originality. Michael Bay kind of adds a little style to it. It's obviously not my favorite style because I gave it a 6, but
It's not Harry Styles.
no, it's not Harry Styles, okay? But it's still pretty good. And I don't know how to describe the style because it's like comedy mixed with a little bit of heart, but it's mainly comedy and action. So I guess for the time it was new. So I'll give it a 6 because I like it, but I'm not going to like want to rewatch it, you know, for that
Yeah.
for that type of style. I might want to rewatch it for other reasons like the actors, but I'm not going to want to rewatch it because of the style at all. So
All right, and now we're at score. I gave it a 4.
I also gave it a 4. We are very close on this.
Yeah, this one we were like almost dead on everything.
Yeah.
I guess I just didn't really think that the score really stood out that much. I mean, it did its job kind of, but it was just a little bit underwhelming.
Yeah.
Although I think there's some good. I think there was a Tupac song.
Yeah. I don't
Not
know.
for very long though, or maybe it was. I don't know. I only briefly know that, and maybe it's because I just lack the 1995, so I don't really understand the cultural importance of any of the music that was in there.
Yeah.
Other than Bad Boys, which I thought I guess they play like
That was on
once
the
or twice.
radio in the beginning.
Yeah.
They're like singing it together. And then the title card comes up. But yeah, anyway, what about choreography?
I gave this a 7 because there was actually some pretty decently choreographed action scenes.
I gave it a 6. I liked the choreography. And maybe this has to do more with style, but it was very cutty when it came to like the explosions and the fight scenes and stuff like that. And in a 90s movie, you kind of had to do that because there's not a lot of special effects that you can use for those longer, drawn-out action sequences. But
And he was using like real explosives and stuff, I think.
yeah, as far as I know. and I don't
think Michael
actually
Bay's
know,
kind of
so-
known for that until he did Transformers, probably.
Yeah, Optimus Prime.
Which I haven't seen any of those, but I don't think I'm really missing out on much.
Hey, Bumblebee was like okay.
Well, Michael Bay didn't direct Bumblebee, though.
Okay, true, but that's a Transformer. But I love like the first one maybe. I don't even know if I love it, but I like the first one a little bit.
Okay, so maybe somebody, if you want to recommend that, if you want us to react to the first...
No, just don't, please. Or if you do, just make me mad. But like, I don't know. Yeah, they're not really that great at all.
All right.
They're cool. They're
They're cool.
cool, but they're not great. You know.
All right, let's compare final scores. My
What-
final score was 55.
Really, mine was 56.
So really close, 55%, 56%. Honestly, a lot of the movies that we rate have been around there.
So neither of us like this movie that much.
No, I was expecting to give this a higher score than I did. Coming in, I thought that I liked this movie more than I did, and apparently I didn't actually like it a whole lot.
When I heard that Martin Lawrence and Will Smith were in this, I thought that I would rate it a lot higher based on presumptions. So
Yeah, they definitely make it not higher than being a 40% though. Like if it wasn't for them, like you'd have to think that like the score would go down.
for the
At
Rotten
least
Tomatoes
by-
score, you mean?
Oh man, the Rotten Tomatoes scores it still seems kind of low.
42, right?
Yeah, I wonder whether any of the other Bad Boys were rated higher, like Bad Boys 2 or Bad Boys for Life, which just came out this year, actually.
Aren't they doing like a couple other ones
They're doing 4, 5, and 6.
with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith?
Yes, it's crazy. I don't understand it. The 2 actually got 23%.
Bad Boys 2 got 23%. Ew.
Oh man,
Let's
and
see what Bad Boys for Life.
Bad Boys for Life got 77%, so they must have figured it out.
That's certified fresh.
I
That's
actu-
probably why they're doing 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, I don't think that Michael Bay directed the third one, and that might have actually made it better, but I could be wrong about that. Bad Boys for Life is directed by 2 people.
Adil El Arbi and Bilal Falah.
So, yeah, definitely not directed by Michael Bay, and apparently that makes the movie quite a bit better.
Thank you, Michael.
Based on Rotten Tomatoes, though, not on my own personal opinion.
In my opinion, I'm not really a big Michael Bay fan.
Yeah, I think he did some things for the industry, but I don't think he's not particularly the best director.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going into our next section, which we call potholes. We should insert some sort of cool sound effect here at some point.
Pot. Okay. Potholes. Let's see.
So
Which
this
is
like
relating to plot holes for those of
plot holes or anything that kind of slows down the movie.
you. Yeah. Most of it.
Most of the movie slows down the movie.
Yeah.
Anything besides Will Smith and Martin Lawrence.
Okay, it wasn't plot holes necessarily. It was more of like why.
Or pacing issues.
Definitely
Or the
pacing
whole
issues.
concept of the movie didn't make sense.
Yeah, why did they have to switch lives? He could have just told her that he
Yeah,
was his
after-
friend. They didn't have to do that big elaborate scheme against Julie. They could have just like told her the truth, and a lot of stuff would have been solved early on in the movie.
They definitely would not have to have done that. And there's so many things that are just like the police malpractice in the one scene where they're like
Yes.
by the dead body. Like, why did they have that? They're supposed to be like the best cops in the entire industry.
They set up a world
They're
where it's
not
supposed
good
to make
cops,
sense, but
though.
it didn't make sense.
They're horrible cops,
Yes,
actually.
exactly.
They always do everything wrong. Like,
Yes.
and why did they set him up like that? Will Smith should be the best cop in the entire universe.
And why was that the chief of police or whatever, his boss, missing every basketball shot? He
Oh
could have
yeah,
at least
that
made
was so,
one.
and he was smoking a cigar while he was shooting.
Yeah, so he's
That,
got.
you know who played that guy?
Who?
Joe Pantalone or so, I forget how to pronounce his name. He's Pantaleano.
You almost
I know-
said pantalones.
Yeah. So
Like the
this
Spanish
guy. So I don't know if you ever listened to the Rewatchables, but it's another movie podcast that is a
Shout
lot
out.
more popular than ours.
No, we're
and
more
they-
popular than them. They're like under us.
They're like under us. Yeah, they're just a little bit less known. And they have this award on their podcast called the Joey Pants Award, and I believe it is an award. I don't exactly know what it is award for though. Like most overachieving actor, maybe. I think that's it.
Because he really outdid himself.
Because well, he's most famous for being one of the guys in The Matrix,
Like,
and he
Over
the
the
guy who
top, you mean?
betrays them.
Oh yeah,
You know
yeah,
that
yeah,
guy?
yeah. Yep,
That's
yep.
who he plays.
That's him. What the heck?
And
That's
he's in
weird.
Memento. Isn't that crazy?
Who's he playing Memento?
You know the guy that the main character like talks to? I can't like I could say it more obviously, but I would ruin the movie.
Just tell me after.
Yeah, I'll tell you after. But this guy, he's kind of like one of those guys who's kind of in everything, and
Wow.
he just always like has these like over the top kind of performances.
Like Danny DeVito.
Is there anything more that we could add to Potholes?
Nope. The whole movie.
The whole movie is a pothole
Yep.
that they run into with their car, and it explodes.
Into ashes.
Yep. And now, what about things we liked?
I liked Will Smith and Martin Lawrence.
Yeah, I liked this guy. He's on. He plays the genie in Aladdin, and he plays a lot of other people, and he's really cool. And his name's.
Out of all the roles that he's
I
ever
don't know, it's
played,
just the
why do you
first
think
one.
of the genie from
I don't
Aladdin?
think I've really watched that many Will Smith movies, but he's a good
What
actor.
about-
I didn't really like Independence Day that much, but like he's good
Isn't
in
he in
Independence.
Gemini Man?
Yeah, I heard that movie's not that good. That's just copies.
Yeah, why did I bring
that
that
movie
one up?
just copies Looper, doesn't it?
He's in Fresh Prince, obviously. He's...
Yeah.
Wait,
He's
what
just,
is Will Smith
Will
in?
Smith is a rapper too. He's like Will Smith is just cool. Like
Wait, what is he in?
Men in Black.
Oh, yes, okay. Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
What else, though?
I don't know. We can pull up Will Smith's Wikipedia.
He's in so much, and I can't think of, like, anything.
We we
Uh,
like Will Smith so much we just don't know what he's in.
Yeah, he kind
He's
of
just
He's in
he's
Suicide Squad, I
he's
remember
in,
that.
Oh yeah, he's in Suicide Squad, Pursuit of Happiness, a bunch of movies like
Hitch.
Hancock. I think I've heard of iRobot,
he's-
Bad Boys 2.
He's in Bright, all the Men in Blacks.
Oh, he's in Collateral Beauty. I've heard of that movie.
Spies in Disguise.
Yeah, Will Smith he's done a
The
lot.
Karate Kid is his
He's in Shark Tale.
son. Oh, does he play Oscar?
He might.
I love that movie. It's really
Oh,
stupid
and of course,
movie.
how could we forget Wild Wild West with Kenneth Branagh?
Forgot that one. We just talked about Kenneth in the last one.
Yeah, he
didn't
was
we?
in the last movie.
Director of Thor.
And Martin Lawrence, I think his career kind of went downhill.
I
after
didn't really
this.
know who Martin Lawrence was.
He had a TV show called Martin that was apparently really funny, and then he got into. He's kind of bounced around. He's kind of had some rough parts of his career in his personal life, but I think he's kind of rebounded, and now he's obviously going to be in Bad Boys 4, 5, and 6. So I think Martin Lawrence, other than the TV show, this might be the most successful thing that he's really done.
With a 42%.
But honestly, he was billed first in this movie, which is kind of crazy. And I think he was honestly might have been a little bit better actually.
Maybe.
Like Will Smith was good, and he definitely had the appeal that made him a movie star.
Martin Lawrence had that Kevin Hart side of things.
Yeah.
He was like the one that was always reacting to everything.
As an actor and a comedian, I think Martin Lawrence looked more
yeah,
comfortable and experienced.
that's true.
So
So let's go into the segment that we started in the last podcast. Watch or
botch.
watch or botch.
I'm actually gonna give this one a watch because even though I rated it kind of low, I do think this is a good movie or a movie that you would be entertained by. Specifically, watch it if you just kind of want to watch something that's just kind of like gets you in an action movie mood. It's like better than a lot of bad action movies. It's not the best action movie though.
I'm going to say watch for one reason. And I would say that's because it's a movie that you hear about a lot, so it's kind of a classic.
Yeah, it does have classic status, and they actually, since they reviewed it on the rewatchables, it kind of is a rewatchable, right? Isn't that what
Sure.
classifies something as being a classic
But
nowadays?
if it's reviewed on the movie vault, that means it's prestige level.
That's true. Or if we give it a botch, that means it'll never be watched by anyone again forever.
That's true.
That would be bad for that movie.
What if we
So
botch a
don't
movie
get on
before it comes out and the total gross is like 0?
That would be crazy. We really have this much power in our hands right now.
We can take down the Marvel Cinematic Universe in one
Don't-
review.
Black Widow, botch. The Eternals, botch. Yikes. Sorry, Kevin Feige.
Yeah. Oh, I love Kevin Feige.
All right, so I was going to go through a few facts in history. So first, the history of this movie, from what I understand. Michael Bay got his start as a music video director, directing for artists such as Meatloaf and some other people. I didn't really even know who Meatloaf was.
Didn't they just do the song "I Would Do Anything for Love"?
He might have. And he's just a really interesting guy. But this somehow he convinced people to be like, oh, we should give this guy who directed music videos a movie to direct. And so he directed this kind of like a music video in some ways, I would say. And then he became the guy who had explosives in all of his films. So that's the Michael Bay side of this. We've kind of touched on Will Smith. People didn't know whether he could really be a movie star, and this movie kind of proved that he could be. And then that led to him being in a lot of other movies. So without this movie, maybe Will Smith wouldn't have been as famous, which is kind of crazy to think about. And a few interesting facts. The Porsche that's driven in this movie, that is Mike Lowry's, is actually the Porsche that is owned by Michael. That was Michael Bay's, so he didn't have any money in the budget to get another Porsche, so he had to use his own. And he also had to fund part of some of the scenes with his own money and get reimbursed later. And this movie was originally made for Eddie Murphy and Wesley Snipes, which they make a Wesley Snipes reference in like the first scene.
That's hilarious.
Which must be like a callback. Which that would have been. I
would have loved that.
Wesley
actually.
Snipes is Blade, right?
He is, yes.
And Eddie Murphy is in Lethal Weapon, which I haven't seen. But I think that would be an interesting but lot different movie.
Speaking of Blade, you know they're doing a Blade reboot?
I know,
in the
with
MCU?
Mahershala Ali. I'm really excited. The fact that it's PG-13 is kind of... Because Blade, the whole thing about Blade was that it was
It's
R.
not bad, but it's confusing. Like, what are
Yeah.
they going to do, you know? How are they going to kill bloody vampires
Right.
with a PG-13?
But Kevin Feige is like really gung-ho about
Maybe
the
they'll
whole...
do like a really gritty show about it, because they're doing shows about everything. They just announced a Nick Fury show.
Whoa.
Yep.
So Samuel L. Jackson?
Mm-hmm.
Man,
that's like
Samuel L. Jackson show?
a $40 billion show.
Man, all I want is Samuel L. Jackson's character from Pulp Fiction. What was that guy's name?
I don't know.
He had a name, but that guy would be that would be a great TV show just about that guy. So now that we kind of covered a few facts in history, why don't we get to our
I love your transitions.
our final thoughts? Yeah,
Final-
they're very creative.
Yeah. Final thoughts, anyway. What did you think, Ben?
So I kind of summarized it. It's a fun movie to watch. Quality-wise, it is not the best movie, but if you're in the mood, it is worth your time. Just for Will Smith and Martin Lawrence.
I have no comment. Honestly, I don't. Because basically what I would say is exactly what Ben said. It's just Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. And everything else wasn't really interesting to me. So I guess I just commented. But like, it was kind of just repeating you. And I'm still commenting. I'm going to stop now.
Like, I feel like we didn't even touch on some of the things that didn't make sense in this movie.
Like what?
Like the whole robbery.
What do you mean the whole robbery?
Like you kind of didn't see the robbery at the start of the film. It made absolutely no sense.
How so?
Because like they used this like advanced system where they went into the vents and they like carted all of the
I saw
heroin
part
up
of that. I saw
and like
part of that.
all of the cops left the police station. It was super unrealistic. And
It
if
was like
some
so coincidental and like so lucky, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember that part.
But anyway, we could probably keep picking nits all day, but we're kind of reaching the end of our time.
It's hard to count to infinity.
Yeah. Wow. Heavy criticism of this movie. But
56%.
we're not out to be kind. We're out to be critics. So, now it is time to plug our Instagram, Twitter, and other things.
And since I don't have those memorized, you tell them.
Yes. Our Instagram is at the Movie Vault Pod. Our Twitter is at Movie Vault Pod. So drop the. And our email is themovievaultpod@gmail.com. Make sure to send us in your recommendations, your suggestions of our format, your criticisms. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts because that's like one of the only places you can actually review podcasts on. We have 9 right now, and most of them are positive. I think we have a 4.6 rating, so I'm really excited about that.
Although, Ben, I found out this, and I'm going to tell you right now, that I know who our 1-star podcast reviewer is.
Ooh.
And we will review that. In fact, it is the person that we are bringing on the show on Wednesday.
Wow. That is... Oh,
I
Man,
just blew Ben's mind.
this
right
is
now.
crazy.
Yep.
And now we recorded that one first, so I can't
That's
give
hilarious.
the guest
Yeah,
a hard time.
We just recorded the Wednesday episode right before this episode, so we recorded out of order. So I'm telling Ben right now who gave us the 1 star, and he just found out, and we just had an interview with this person.
Yeah, so this has a whole new element to the interview that we can't change anything of.
Is this like Tenet? Oh wait,
Whoa.
non-spoiler.
Non-spoiler.
Yeah,
Well, I feel like that's not really a spoiler.
yeah.
All right. And is there anything else? Yeah, leave us good ratings. Listen to us. Make sure we're on Stitcher, Spotify. Obviously, you're listening to us now, so you found us on something. We have more exciting things in the works that we haven't announced yet, but just so you know that we're working on new stuff.
Yep.
It's gonna be exciting.
And we'll let
You're-
you know as soon as we get it.
Yeah, we'll let you know. You'll definitely know about it. And with that, are we finally good to close the vault?
I guess so. It's getting.
All right. Well, our
all the
biceps are
oxygen.
getting pretty strong from opening and closing this vault
Oh,
2
yeah.
times a week.
It's like a 200-kilogram vault door.
But our vault doesn't have heroin in
Can
it.
you calculate-
It has movies, not heroin.
Can you calculate the force of heroin against the gravitation? Okay, ready?
Okay, time to close the vault.
Ready?